Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wayne Liu. I'm joined by co host Alex Wong. Today, we are going to go over the Western Conference NBA win totals for the 2024 2025 NBA season. If you haven't checked it out already, we did the Eastern Conference version of this episode earlier this week on the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. Again, make sure you continue to support the show by liking, commenting, on watching. Of course, it's the most important part of all the content over on YouTube. We go live quite frequently now after games, and the best way to catch one of those lives where we take questions and we sort of engage and again, just like hang out with people, and you can obviously chat with other people too, is by hitting the notification bell, hitting subscribe. That way you'll know and you get an alert every single time we are going live on the Hill and Welcome podcast. And of course, review us on Apple iTunes as well. It's just very, very important. Did I say iTunes? I meant Apple Podcast. iTunes, that's so 2010. Anyway, joining us is Alex Wong. What's going on, my brother, man? I hope you're back from New York already. But
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about the West now. We were big in the East, now we big in the West.
yeah. I mean, New York was a blast, man. What a fun trip. Can't wait to get into more details about it on the next banter pod. We still got to talk about our Montreal trip. Want to hear about your new top 10 spots in Montreal, and and then we might have some fun interviews, on the banter pod as well. But yes, Western Conference. Let's get to it. Same format as we did for the East. We're gonna go through the teams, and then we're gonna draft our three locks, and we're gonna track them during the season. So the OKC Thunder are at
Wait,
the
hold on.
top. What's up?
Before we go to the OKC Thunder at the top,
What's up?
where are you getting these odds of? Where are you getting these
You
win
gotta
totals, man?
make sure you check Betway for all your basketball betting needs. Shouts to Betway. And so yeah, the OKC Thunder, 56.5. They won 57 games last year in the regular season, finished as the number one seed in the West, and won the offseason as well. I think most people think they won the offseason, adding Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso, re-signing some of their role players, Isaiah Joe, my favorite coffee shop, and Aaron Wiggins as well. This team is getting a lot of buzz coming into the season. I think they're a clear front runner to finish with the best record in the West. I don't know if you agree with that. For me, I think this is a 60 plus win team in the same way that the Celtics are.
Ooh, 60 plus.
Yeah, I think they're there, and I think
Really?
with Shea leading the way, maybe Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, either one of them taking a step. Like I think this team is prime to have a monster regular season. I think they're a good enough team to maybe withhold some injuries here and there. Like I just really like this team. I like the continuity of this team. To me, this is an over.
Okay. I mean, it's hard to argue against that because, again, they won 57 games last year, and then they added two key pieces at two positions of need. You swap out Josh Giddey, you put in Alex Caruso. I think that's certainly an upgrade. And, of course, Isaiah Hartenstein gives them that size that they were missing this whole time. The only thing is, I'm looking at it, so their point differential last year was plus 7.4. And I know, especially with them having Shea, this should be a team that, like, almost slightly overperforms whatever their point differential is, because in a close game, in terms of who I want closing a game for me, Shea is like top 3 in the league for me in terms of that. I don't know if you would agree with that. Is he a
hmm
top 3 closer?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I would put
Yeah.
them way up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, at the same time, it's just like the West is so hard and it's so competitive, that it's hard to sort of hit over on any of these high totals. But I do agree with you. Like the team is on a slight up, is on an upward trajectory for sure. They got young players. My question is, number one, how are they going to manage to adjust their system? Because I do think that a lot of OKC's success is playing five out a lot and being able to drive kick, drive kick, drive kick, like do 4 of those sequences in one possession, which does unlock the defense most times. And it does this like overall additive effect where it feels like everybody on the team is like way more efficient than they really should be based on their abilities. And I think that does change though if you put a guy like Hartenstein in there. I mean, obviously he's going to screen and create space with the screens, and we know he's got that little short push shot. It's basically like a different version of Jakob almost. But I don't know. For me, I'll probably go over, but to me, it's not a lock on this one. I don't know if that's how you feel.
Hmm.
You did say 60 plus, which I thought was a little aggressive, but you know what? Let's back it. You know what I mean? Like, Shea is a proud Canadian. He gave us a great Olympics
Hmm.
this year. It wasn't his fault at all that we crashed out, and always happy to root for OKC. So let's give him the over.
Yeah, and I want you to know too. I mean, Boston obviously coming off the championship.
Mm,
I think people always, in terms from a narrative standpoint, when I'm thinking about like awards too, like people are always trying to look to the next team now. Like OKC is
sure.
kind of that next team, and I was looking on Betway. So Coach of the Year odds. Um,
Oh, word?
Mark Daigneault is 12-1 to win
Really?
Coach of the
Hmm.
Year, and I think if the Thunder get to 60 plus wins, I think I like Mark Daigneault there, man. I mean, there's Taylor Jenkins, Tom
Okay.
Thibodeau. They're both at 9-1. Nick Nurse is 11-1. Chris Finch is
Yeah.
at 12-1. Joe
Hmm.
Mazzulla is at 12-1 as well. Do any of those stand out to you?
So, well, okay. First off, I'll say to you that Coach of the Year is one of those awards that just doesn't repeat, especially
Yeah,
back to backs.
no, I get it.
So, Mark Daigneault won it this year.
Mm-hmm.
The year before it was Mike Brown, and I'll just list you the last couple winners until we
Mm-hmm.
get to like a repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Daigneault, Mike Brown, Monty Williams, Tom Thibodeau, Nick Nurse, Mike Budenholzer, Dwayne Casey, Mike D'Antoni, Steve Kerr,
Hmm.
Mike Budenholzer. That's the first time there's a repeat, and that only took place over a 5-year period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in terms of a back-to-back Coach of the Year winner, like you really got to go back a long. I don't even know if it's ever happened, quite frankly. So I think that's the part that's a little difficult for me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like what he did last year was certainly deserving of it. I think that he was a really, really worthy candidate. But I do think that they're probably going to end up giving it to Missoula. I think, especially if the Celtics continue to have a 60-win pace. I think it's one of those things where it's like, you know what, my bad. We gave you shit for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, you've really brought a new thing to the Celtics and you've clearly won. It's so much easier to reward the person after they've won. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like even Nick Nurse, for example, after you won the title, loses Kawhi, the team's still good. It made it really easy to give it to Nick, not
Mm-hmm.
only because of what he did that season, but also because we know that this guy's a winner. It's always easier to back a winner. So I actually think probably Missoula is the pick, but
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
let's go. Let's go with Joe Mazzulla. Joe Mazzulla at 12-1. Hit the QR
Mm.
code at the bottom. Check out Betway for all of these betting odds. All right, Minnesota Timberwolves are next. They're 52.5. Obviously, making this move recently of acquiring Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo and swapping out Carl Anthony Towns. What do you think about the Timberwolves, especially after this big move to their starting lineup?
Yeah, so basically they're saying either directly because of the trade or not, but this is where you see a drop because they won 56 games last year. They're at 52 and a half here. Um, Look, I think I've already been on record in previous episodes of saying like I guess I'm shorting the Timberwolves, but I still wouldn't short them by this much. I probably would go a slight under on this, just because I think that like it changes the team significantly. I think Randall is a totally different player than Cat. I mean, we all understand that Cat had basically like done what he needed to do in terms of sidestepping and allowing Anthony Edwards to be the leader of the team, be the primary guy, but he could also space out and sort of like play in that sort of like advantage that they had with like the two centers that they're able to play really well. It's not so easy to play Randall and Gobert together because Randall doesn't space the floor nearly as well or nearly as much as Cat. I think probably Randall's going to demand more of the ball than Cat did. And I don't know. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo is nice. I mean, they could certainly use another guard like that, a bit of athleticism, definitely the threes, but I don't know. I just feel like they didn't need to make this change, and they did it. And whatever. If Sade helps their cap sheet or whatever, but I don't know. I feel like it's an unnecessary risk. I'm gonna go under on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go under too. I think before the trade,
Okay,
I was really high on the
you
Timberwolves,
were, yeah.
and I just, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like kind of upsetting that kind of continuity and that starting lineup that they had. It's now just created more question marks, like you mentioned. Like how's Randall gonna look
Hmm.
alongside Edwards? And yeah, I just think it kind of upset the kind of balance of the team. So yeah, I'm gonna go under with you as well on the Timberwolves, because I think
There's
too.
there's no way to zag on this, right? There's no way that like the Timberwolves somehow quietly got better with this trade because I
Um,
haven't heard that one take anywhere.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think if they get
Like
better,
what's the case for that? Like Randall is like I mean, Randall did have some quietly like pretty good seasons in New York. I think he even got like an All NBA nod. I think once maybe.
Sure, I
But
think if they're gonna get better, it's not gonna be through the trade. Like it'll just be like, oh, Ant suddenly becomes like this guy,
takes the
like
lead.
yeah,
Yeah,
approaches like a top 5 player status, and maybe they get some additional, just like oh, like guys like Rob Dillingham coming off the bench, like certain guys just stepping
sure.
into those roles. But I don't know. I feel like the trade for them in the immediate is like a step back for them. So I'm gonna take
Yeah,
the under on them.
I agree. Yeah, let's go under.
Yes.
What about the next one?
Yeah. So the Denver Nuggets was 57 wins last season
Yeah,
and lost KCP, signed
yeah,
Jamal Murray to a huge extension. There's obviously been questions about his health and what he might look like long term, especially
sure.
after he played through injuries at the Olympics. We talked about this KCP thing. So they're at 51.5 this season for the over under.
Mm,
Man, this is an over for me. Like, you still have Nikola Jokic. You still have the pieces, like 4 of the 5 pieces from, like, one of the best starting fives. I know KCP is going to be a loss for them, but
hmm
this is still a really good team. And I feel like we always overreact from year to year about teams like this. Like, to me, I would not be shocked if Denver was competing with OKC up there for the number 1 seed. Like, I still
Yeah.
really like this team.
Well, I think a couple of things for Denver. Like, obviously, as you mentioned, there's still a lot of good talent on the roster. They still have the best player in basketball right now, and Nikola Jokic on the roster, of course. And I think the one thing with Denver, I never try to rule out ever, is just how much of an effect their home court advantage is. Like, not only because of the altitude, but it's also geographically. Like, they get to play a lot of teams on their way. You're flying east to go out west for those like 4 or 5 game road trips or whatever. You're typically stopping in like Memphis, New Orleans. Actually, those are usually for if you're going to Texas. If you're going to the West Coast, you're typically stopping in Denver first, or you're playing them last at the end of the road trip. I do feel like their home record is always like impeccable,
Hmm.
is what I'm trying to say. But I also think that like you don't even have to make that argument when their team is just still pretty damn good. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Do you think Russ is going to work out for them? I don't think Russ is going to torpedo this team.
No, I
You
feel
know,
like Russ can find a role in the same way that he did with the Clippers. Like I thought Russ
I think
was
they're asking him to be like Bruce Brown,
right,
basically.
and Russ was really
Yeah.
good in the regular season for the Clippers the last few
Mhm.
years. I think it's just when they got to the playoffs, especially when Kawhi was kind of in and out of the lineup, and you saw Russ trying to do like too much again. But his 3-point shooting is going to be what it is. He always takes too many threes, but I think in terms of the hustle plays, in terms of like the defensive intensity, like Russ
Yeah.
is a perfect guy at this part of his career to like lift up a regular season team,
Sure.
and a really good team in Denver. Like I really, yeah, this is a clear over for me. I think Denver is going to be right back to battling for the number 1 seed.
Yeah. I think the one thing with Denver, obviously Westbrook doesn't help this, but like they need to get more 3-point volume up.
Mhm.
Actually, Loki, I kind of want Jokic to shoot more threes.
Sure.
Feels
Yeah.
like he could. I mean, like obviously that's not his primary game. He's so good offensive. Like he's arguably the most impactful offensive player in the league.
Hmm.
Actually, kind of inarguably, he's definitely that good.
Yeah.
But like quietly, he only took like 2.9 threes a game last year, and he only hit them at a 35.9% clip. Like it does feel like I think like they just need to get more threes up overall. Right. I think that's probably the one weakness of this team is that like as efficient as they are, I think they're kind of leaving a little bit on the table by playing a slightly suboptimal strategy in terms of their shot selection. Um, but I do think that like, yeah, they also have young guys that can pop off a little bit. Christian Brown, I think has been like, I think he's really angling for like a chance to expand his role and he's gonna get that chance. He's probably gonna start. He played all 82 games last year, which is a great sign. Him and Peyton Watson played 80 games last year. He's also a really young, healthy player. And I think that like yeah, I mean, they just kind of need one more guy to pop off for them. Either that, or they need to pick up a trade deadline kind of thing, or they need to pick up like a waiver wire kind of guy. I know those are a little bit harder to pick up now under the new CBA and all that kind of stuff. But I could easily see them adding somebody midway through the season as well to address a guy like KCP leaving. But yeah, this is a team that's good. I mean, I think for me, this is like one of my locks. I'm taking them over.
Yeah, for sure. Next up,
Yeah.
the defending Western Conference champs, the Dallas Mavericks, are at
Mm,
49.5. They won exactly
that's
50
low.
games last season. Of course, their big addition was Klay Thompson. They lost Josh Green, Tim Hardaway Jr., Derek Jones Jr. Oh, Spencer Dinwiddie is back on the Mavs again? Dinwiddie,
How many times?
Dinwiddie back. Quentin
Uh-huh.
Grimes, Najee Marshall were the other additions for them. But yeah, this is Clay. This is, Luka and Kyrie. This is Derek Lively getting a lot of buzz of like taking the next step. So, I've talked about the Mavs before. I feel like I'm going to take the under here. I think I can see them in like, I don't know, 47, 48 wins. I just don't see them as this like regular season juggernaut. I don't know. I know I'm like probably too low on the Mavs, but
You're a little too low, man.
yeah, but I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go under here.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the Mavs, like last season, they added the two pieces at the deadline and in Gafford and in PJ Washington, and they became this like really strong defensive team,
Mhm.
which they obviously always ride through Luka and Kyrie, but like those other guys did a really good job defensively to carry them through at least the Western Conference. I think that their defense is still just as good. I think Lively, first off, is a very exciting player. Like I think that he already had a pretty good season, but their center rotation is quite strong between him and Gafford.
Mhm.
I probably start Lively. I think there's just a lot of skill there as well. Very, very fluid, mobile athlete. Again, he's one of the breakout rookies from last season for sure. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses. The way they added depth was good though, man. Najee Marshall is a good player. Obviously, losing Derrick Jones Jr., who's a starter for them, is a loss. He was one of their best on ball defenders last season. They could sort of throw him on whoever. It allowed them to switch quite a bit. But it's also like offensively, he's kind of limited, and I think Marshall is a little bit better of a shooter, and also he's still athletic to catch lobs, even if he's not as athletic. Like one of the craziest things about the Mavs is they'll just like before they even cross half court, Luka's just throwing a lob.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it usually was Derrick Jones catching those. But I think Marshall, I think he's a plus on that end. I think Clay obviously is a plus as well. Their depth is probably a little bit better than it was last season. Even Quentin Grimes, I'm curious to see how he slots in because all they need from him is 3-and-D with how good Luka and Kyrie are. So yeah, for me again, like I know they only won 50 games last season. Their point differential wasn't strong either, plus 2.3, which is like pretty low for a 50-win team. But at the same time, I think I gotta bet on this team. I think that they're clearly moving towards an identity that they're working with, that they got them to the conference or the NBA finals with last season. And I just don't see them winning under 50 games. I think this is a really good team.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
gonna
that's
go
fair.
over on this one.
I'm gonna say I think I just have it in my mind of like the Knicks in the East and the Mavs in the West as like the disappointing teams up top. And I know Dallas beat Minnesota in the conference finals last season, but like man, I look at the Thunder, I look at Denver, even Minnesota. Like I feel like those teams are better than Dallas, but I don't know. I'm really low on the Mavs, but
Interesting.
we'll see what
But
happens.
they also have like Luka at worst is a top 5 player in the NBA.
Sure, but it's like,
Yeah.
have they during the Luka era ever been like that dominant regular season team?
They've never been a dominant regular season team.
Mhm.
They won 52 games before that. They won 42 and 30 in that shortened season. So
Right.
that's probably like, I don't know, like a
Yeah.
47-win team. But
I
like,
guess I'm just not that
yeah,
excited
you're
about the
right.
Clay
You're right.
ad, and I'm not like, I think Derek Lively's gonna be a good player, but is that gonna help fuel them to make a jump? But I
Hmm.
could be wrong, but I'm gonna stick with the under here. Next up,
By the way, fun fact, you know
yeah.
who's number 2 and number 3 in all-time Dallas Mavericks franchise wins shares? Obviously, Dirk is number 1.
Win shares. We're talking win shares.
shares.
Which
Yeah.
which era are we talking about for these other two players here?
I believe 90s. Let me click through because I'm not familiar with these players that much.
Oh man.
Yeah, one of these guys played largely in the 80s.
Okay.
The other one, number 2 played largely in the 80s. Number 3 also largely played in the 80s, but he did play with the Mavs until 94.
Man, not Derek Harper.
Yeah, Derek Harper's actually number 3.
Okay, Derek Harper. I feel like
Yeah.
I should get the second guy. Who's the second guy?
The second guy shot some key free throws in an All-Star game once.
Shot some key free throws in an All-Star game?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. You got to tell me.
Rolando Blackman.
Rolando Blackman. Oh my god. Yo, thanks
I
for
couldn't believe
thanks for
those
the
are 2 and 3
Mavs
in
trivia,
win
man. When Jerome comes back from his shower, he'll be sure to clip this for you.
Yeah, he'll be editing that one out for sure. You're like, what are you doing, man?
All right, next up.
You guys talk about Rolando Blackman?
Next up, the Phoenix Suns are at 47.5. I was actually pretty surprised looking at this because by all accounts, the Suns were a really disappointing team last season, and they got swept out of the first round. But I was
Yep.
shocked when I checked last season's standings. The Suns won 49 games. Like
Yeah, they still got 49 games.
they felt like a 43 win team to me based on how we looked at them because there's so much injuries and the big three never really got clicking there with Booker, KD, and Beal because of injuries. So they finally added some point guards this offseason. They got Tyus Jones, they got Monty Morris, and they also added Mason Plumlee. They lost.
They want the value village. That's what they did.
Not even the premium ones, man. So they lost smiley face Eric Gordon. Drew Banks is gone as well. They brought back Royce O'Neal on a 4-year deal. Our boy Josh Okogie, Bull is back as well. But essentially, this is the big three of Beal, Booker, and KD trying to figure it out with new coach Mike Budenholzer and with Tyus Jones at point guard. I think it's just the same story about the Suns again. Like, is Bradley Beal still this level of a player? Is KD going to be healthy? Like, I think we all know who Devin Booker is. He's a great player. But, is there going to be enough depth? Is the coaching change going to make a difference? These guys are so deep into the second apron. They don't got a draft pick till like 2055. Like, this is the Phoenix Suns, and I think it's the exact same questions as we talked about last season.
So I think the concerning thing is the Suns actually, I mean, outside of Beal, who played 53 games, which whatever, but like they were actually decently like healthy in terms of their top guys. Like KD played 75 games at 37 minutes per game at the age of 35, right? Which like doesn't seem that out the question because KD obviously is a great pro and like he's a great all-time player. But like the seasons before that, he played the year before that he played 47. Year before that he played 55. Year before that he played 35. Then he missed the whole year with the Achilles, which obviously Raptor fans can remember. Like 75 is actually the most games he's played since 2019. So I think it's like unlikely that he plays that many games, especially at that high of a minutes threshold too. As last season. I'm not just gonna like try to like pencil in an injury for a great player. Obviously, I want to see KD perform, but like, yeah, I mean, like, on the flip side, Royce only played 30, but like, yeah, I don't know, like, this just feels high. Like, even feels like them getting 49 wins last year felt like they overachieved with sort of what they had. The one thing I would say is Mike Budenholzer, his teams have done a great job of getting regular season results. And I do see the formula on paper to execute what Bud has traditionally done, which is to implement a really solid drop defense. He has a drop center who's pretty big in Nurkic, right? I think he's probably a better defensive reputation than, for example, when Bud first got Brook Lopez, for example. You remember Brook Lopez used to be a reputationally a bad defender and functionally a bad defender, right? So I think Nurkic has been a good defender in the past, and maybe he gets the system to get him in place. But I also think that part of making a really effective drop defense is then you need to have somebody really, really dogged guarding the ball. Like before, at least they had Bledsoe, for example, with the Bucks, and they don't really have that on the ball. So I don't know. I think I'm probably going to take under. This is just a team that's like very underwhelming to me, but I don't have a great reason to.
Well, I do. Like, they just don't have enough guys on the team. Like, you talk about, like, Bud having the regular season success. You even talk about, like, KD being healthy last season. But the fact that Beal missed all those games, it's like they made that trade for Beal, really locked in this team, locked into all the second apron stuff. Like, you need Beal to be playing, like, 70, 75 games. You need that big three to be clicking at all times. Like, this is their whole concept that they're building around. And I was just looking it up. Beal is only 31. Feels like he's 35. Because just with the injuries, like you just haven't like. I think that was the fatal move for them, like making that move and locking everything in. And I just don't think this team has the depth to withstand any injuries. And I think once you remove a KD, a Booker, and you don't know about Beal's availability. To me, like I could see this team being like just a 500 team. Like, I think we're so starstruck by the star power. Like, we saw KD, we saw Booker at the Olympics. We know who these guys are. Like, these are two great players. Sure. But this is a terrible team. Like, this is just not a good team.
The team around them is not very strong.
Yeah, this is just not a good team. So
it's not a lot of great defenders, too.
Yeah.
Although they did get to 13th at defensive rating last year, which I'm kind of shocked that they did that, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the peak for these guys was a couple of seasons ago when they had that really fun series against Denver, man. Like they were able
Oh,
to take 2 games off them because of KD and Booker, and I think that's about it for this team in terms of this era.
yeah, it's a tough one. I'm gonna yeah, going under is a little tough because that means we're saying they're gonna win 47 or less, but
Hmm.
I could see it for sure. If KD plays like only 65 games, this team is not gonna win
Yeah,
47
like I'm
and a,
telling
or
you,
like
man.
48.
Like I'm telling you, OKC gonna fall short of winning the title this season, and
Mm.
then they're gonna get the first overall pick and get Cooper Flag from the Clippers because they own the
Wait,
Clippers
oh
pick,
my
and
god.
then they're gonna package 15 first rounders and get KD.
Oh,
So they're gonna get KD from Phoenix. Phoenix gets to replenish their draft picks, and then they
uh-huh.
they trade Beal as well, and they can rebuild around Booker. This is Wongstradamus right here. This is what's gonna happen.
That would be kind of sick, man. Because KD going back to OKC to finish what he started.
Yeah, and he plays with
Oof.
Flag. He plays with Chet. Plays with Shea. Like, come on, man.
Mm.
Anyways, okay. Next up,
All
let's
right.
let's talk about
Kind of like
these.
that.
Let's talk about these 3 teams together here. We got Memphis, season from hell last year with
Yep.
all the injuries. Shouts to Bill Simmons. 47 and a
What?
half because he always talks about season from hell.
Okay. All right. That's it.
You know I'm always cribbing from my boy Bill.
All
Um,
right.
Memphis
That's crazy.
Grizzlies 47 and a half. The
Yep.
Sacramento Kings adding DeMar DeRozan at 46 and a half, and the New Orleans Pelicans acquiring DeJounte Murray at 46 and a half as well. We can start with the Grizzlies here. I think it's just a consensus that everybody is picking the Grizzlies to have this
Yeah.
bounce
Yeah.
back season. John Moran is back.
Mm.
We know when their starting lineup is healthy, what they look like. Zach Edey into the starting lineup, early rookie of the year favorite. And to be
Mm.
honest, I can't really poke too many holes at that theory. Like, I think Memphis is a
Okay.
really good team when they're healthy. Like, I don't know what you think.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think last year I picked them as the lock for my over, and I think there were like 50 wins last year, and they ended up at 27. Obviously, I didn't know at the time that every single player would be injured,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And John Moran obviously had a 20-game suspension or whatever, but like even when he came back, he was healthy for like 5 games, and he was out again. So yeah, I mean, you are saying they're gonna make a 21 win jump, but at the same time, like between 27 wins and the over at 47 and a half, but I do think that like, yeah, you're getting Ja back in the fold. You are getting like hopefully a fully healthy Marcus Smart. I feel like Marcus Smart, like since leaving Boston, has just become so irrelevant. It's only been 1 year, but it's kind of crazy. He was like a guy who was talked like he was just like defensive player of the year like 2 years ago.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's probably part of the power of the Boston market, and again, how many reporters that they disproportionately have across the NBA. But like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the one thing with Memphis is just do they have enough 3-point shooting?
Sure.
Because it feels like they have one shooter in the starting five and then one shooter coming off the bench in Kennard,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, no, I get it, but I think they just have such a track record when Ja is healthy.
Yeah.
To me, that this
Yeah,
is
sure,
a this is
sure.
a 50-win team. So I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over. I think I'm
Okay.
comfortably over on this 47 and a half.
I'm
Sacramento.
gonna skeptically give them the under. I think they'll probably end up at like 45 for
Okay.
me.
Sacramento and New Orleans both at 46 and a half. I can't figure these two teams out every year, man. Like, Sacramento had a
Yeah,
great year two
I
seasons
know.
ago, took a little step back, still the same team, just trying to, outgun you,
Well, they
add
got
DeMar.
DeMar.
Yeah, add DeMar,
Yeah.
try to outgun you now. The Pelicans, every year, Brandon Ingram's heading into a contract year, doesn't seem happy. Every
Mm,
year we got to deal with a couple Zion injuries. They
yeah.
added DeJounte Murray. On paper, they always look good. And I feel like there's always 2 weeks in the regular season every year where the Pelicans look like the best team in the West. They can, like,
Yeah.
beat any team, and then it just kind of falls apart. So I'm just choosing to not engage with these two teams. I'm going to give them both the under.
Yeah, it's a little shocking to me that the Pelicans won 49 games last year. Like,
Yeah,
it just
again.
doesn't,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like,
Surprise.
like that's a bit of a surprise. And they had a
Yeah.
better point differential. They're at plus 4.4 last season. That's better than Dallas at plus 2.3.
Mm.
That's better than the Clippers last year at plus 3.3. That's better than like the Suns at plus 3, the Lakers, et cetera, et cetera. Like they actually seem like they were actually relatively okay. But I don't know. This has always been a team that's less than the sum of their parts, the Pelicans.
Mhm.
And despite them adding some pieces, I don't know. I guess on paper they really address some of their weaknesses. They get stronger defensively in the backcourt with Dejounte. Um, I don't know what's CJ McCollum still doing on this team. It feels like they got some trades to make.
CJ
This
McCollum's
roster's
like
kind of like
he's always in New
TBD.
Orleans, and somehow he pops up for 2 weeks in Bristol for ESPN during the season.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't you have games this week? Like, I just don't understand the Pelicans, and it's like you mentioned, like on paper, I love this team, man. Like if you didn't
Sure,
if
yeah.
you didn't give me the history of these guys and like all the ups and downs that they've gone through, I'm like, yo, I love this team. But it's like I've seen this movie too many times, and I don't think it's changing this season. So.
Obviously, I don't like their bigs because I mean, JV whatever is already kind of like not a starting level big for me anymore for a playoff team. But like going from that to like a rookie and Yves Misi or like I don't know who actually they're gonna start. Yves Misi, man.
Okay. This man just said 4 alphabets at me. What's going on?
That's who TFC was playing before Lionel Messi stepped in,
God.
man. They had Misi. No, but like he's a rookie. I think the Raptors were. I don't know. We did a little bit of draft prep. Like he was like a solid like role big or whatever.
Sure.
But like yeah, I don't know. They got some decent depth as well. Like they have a lot of guys who can score 20. Like if you want to look at it through my new 20 point per game framework, but like DeJounte, CJ, Ingram, Zion, these guys can they have 4 guys average 20, but like I don't know. It just feels like this team needs to make some more trades to like solidify their roster. I'll probably still go over though because they did win 49 games last year.
I mean, if you were to pick
46 and a half.
I mean, if you were to say like, I mean, you're
go over on
taking
this.
Memphis the under, right? Like at 47.
I'm taking the Memphis on there. I'm taking Sacramento the under too. By the way, I don't buy it, man. Like, why are you doubling down on more guard offense and even less defense? You know what I mean?
Well, I just think if you can make a case for Memphis to make a jump and be a 50-win team again, like you can make the same case for the Pelicans. Like you said, when you told me the record, like I was really surprised too. It would not shock me if it would not even shock me if the Pelicans won like 55 games. Like they have that potential. But like
they got a good bench too. They got a lot. They always have felt like their second unit comes in, they bring in like crazy energy.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about like Herb Jones and all these other guys that they have.
Trey
like,
Murphy.
Yeah.
Dyson Daniels.
They have I think Dyson's in Atlanta now though, right? Did they ship him?
Is he in Atlanta?
Yeah, I think they shipped him.
He might got shipped.
But I get exactly what he's like. They're like the best team on paper. Give them the paper NBA championship, man.
Wow, the paper NBA championship.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
The best team on paper.
We want to take this break in the podcast to let you know that we are partnering with Tangerine for this season. For people who aren't familiar, Tangerine is the official bank of the Toronto Raptors and its fans, and Tangerine is a foundational partner of NBA Canada and WNBA Canada. Tangerine is focused on growing the game of basketball in the country from the grassroots level all the way up to the pros, and where you will find a court, you will likely find Tangerine. And that's the mission that really resonated with us because we also share the same goal of growing the game of basketball here in Canada. What you need to know about Tangerine is that they are about forward banking. That means no unfair fees, no overly complicated products, no expensive brick and mortar branches. And if you want to learn more about Tangerine, go to tangerine.ca.
Okay, next up, the Old Head Division. Old Head Division.
So where were you on the Kings though? You were.
I'm gonna take the under on the Kings.
All right.
I'm gonna take the under on the Pelicans, and I'm gonna take the over on the Memphis Grizzlies. So next up, the Old Head Division: Golden State Warriors and the LA Lakers. They are both at 43.5. The Warriors actually, pretty interesting roster shift with Klay Thompson going to the Mavs. They brought in Lee Kai-er, a.k.a. Kyle Anderson. They brought in Buddy Hield to be the Pacific Mall Splash brother. They brought in DeAnthony Melton, who is analytics darling. DeAnthony Melton is a problem. I remember last year people being like, yo, was it last year when he was on the Sixers? And everybody was just like, man, like DeAnthony Melton. The East runs through DeAnthony Melton.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm like, everybody calm down, okay? So, they lost Chris Paul, who's now mentoring Wemby, and obviously, like I mentioned, Klay. So the lineup is a little bit different around Steph, around Draymond. Andrew Wiggins is still there. Jonathan Kuminga is going to take a next step.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr might never play Moses Moody. I don't know. I should have consulted Andy Liu on this because I'm really not sure what the Warriors are going to be like this season.
Yeah, can I do it? I'm going to do an Andy Liu impersonation.
Please, man. This guy's just going to be drunk.
This the team could easily win like 50 games, but
Yeah.
Sleepy Kerr.
Sleepy
Kerr.
Kerr, man. Yo.
Sleepy Kerr. Sleepy Steve's not going to let him do it. Sleepy Steve's not going to let the Warriors be great again.
Sleepy Steve, man. Oh my god.
Sleepy Steve is sick.
Oh
man.
my god.
He's like, yo, Sleepy Steve, more interested in winning Democratic votes in the future than he is about winning games with Steph Curry. Wasting his prime? Why don't you play more pick and roll with Steph Curry? It's that simple.
Man.
Yeah, I love Andy, dog. Congrats on life in general.
Yeah,
But
shout out to Andy.
yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, they really just ordered some spare parts. They have the most random team.
But
Like,
listen, man. Like we saw
what is Kyle Anderson doing?
We saw what Steph did at the Olympics, and I think Steph is still playing at a very high level.
I'm not worried about Steph. Steph's the reason they're gonna have even a chance to be over 500.
This is not a championship team, clearly, but like maybe the way that they shifted the roster, they're bringing in a little bit more depth, and yeah, I don't know, like something just tells me to choose the over here. I'm gonna bet on Steph to get this team to like a mid 40s, maybe a 45, 46 win team.
Okay.
I just
what
I like the pieces.
I always back the Warriors, man. I back the Warriors always just because of Steph. So
yeah,
I'm gonna hit the over 2 on this one, but I don't know, man. I mean, like it's certainly not a convincing.
I'm not locking this
squad,
up. Like I'm not feeling great about it, but I'll trust Steph here. The Lakers did not make huge moves. Their biggest move was JJ Redick as the new head coach.
Right.
And they also, that's about it, man. It's pretty much the same squad.
What about Bronny, man?
Bronny, Torian Prince.
What about the sharpshooter they drafted?
Yeah, Dalton Connect.
Dalton Connect 4.
Torian Prince went to the Milwaukee Bucks to reunite with Darvin Ham.
Yeah, my funny thing with Laker fans is they just call Darvin hands in pocket.
Hands in pocket. JJ Redick,
so good.
You know what? JJ Redick is such a litmus test of like how you enjoy basketball to me, because I've seen these clips going. I've seen these clips going around in the preseason as well of like, they'll interview him about like, what you think about the team's defensive intensity, like kind of just a throwaway question for a coach.
Yeah, like a regular question.
And he's like, man, seriously. I really like our off-ball screening. This was an emphasis that we had, and we know JJ did a whole X's and O's podcast with LeBron and things like that.
He's the Samson Focal coaches, man. It's like that's actually how he moves.
No, but it's like. But it's like, shouts to JJ. I think he's going to try to bring that kind of sensibility in the way that he talks about the team, talks about the game. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if that's going to result in any more wins for this Lakers team. I am going to I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under on this Lakers team.
Interesting thing with the thing is like they still won 47 games last year.
Sure. Yeah, why does it seem like every West team won 5 more games than I thought they did? Yeah. This speaks to basketball media coverage.
Yeah, I think like the only thing the Lakers is they were only a plus 0.6 in point differential, which means it should have been like a 500 team.
Sure.
Or like slightly above it, maybe like 42 and 40 instead of 47 and 35, but like they got Bron, which really helped them execute a lot of, late game scenarios. Mm-hmm. I think with this team, like, they got a really healthy season out of AD last year. Mm-hmm. And, I think that more than anything else is going to hold up the floor for this team. Mm-hmm. LeBron, I trust. LeBron's going to be there, whatever. But like, if AD has one of those AD seasons where it's just like he's not in the lineup that often, all that kind of stuff. Like last year he played 76 games for reference, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, if he's not playing 76 games, he's it's not gonna work out for this team. It's a question of how much you believe in his health, because the years before that, 56 games played, 40 games played, 36 games played, 62, 56. The last time he played even 70 plus games was 2018 when he was with the Pelicans still. Yeah, and he was a 24-year-old at the time. Like, so I don't know if AD turned the corner and he's fully healthy. I think the Lakers can hit the over on this. But it is kind of a bet. I think like there are other factors too. I think the JJ bringing the mind the game approach to this, I think, is like not insignificant. I don't think that Darvin Ham was helping this team particularly, but at the same time, like I don't know. I picked a lot of overs, man. I might just go under on this. Yeah, actually under on this is so aggressive though.
It's not though. Like you mentioned, like their roster is a house of cards. Like even if LeBron misses like 2 to 3 weeks. if he like, God forbid, has an injury, like you mentioned, if AD is out for a certain period of time, like I don't like the rest of that roster at all. With like, I don't know how you feel about like Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, like they still got D'Angelo Russell in the starting lineup.
Oh
There's
yeah.
not a really good squad behind those top two
Mm,
guys. And
right.
I think even if they were healthy, like there's so many teams better than them in
Mm,
the West that I think it's gonna be tough for them to like put together like a season where they're approaching like 45 wins even. So yeah, I'm
yeah.
taking the under on the Lakers.
So I think the one question for me is like, okay, so when you bring in a big change in coach like this, right? Like
Mm,
what you're essentially saying is that, like whether it's like, and we know JJ is mostly in for the tactical side rather than sort of the motivational side. Maybe
mhm,
a little bit of both. You never know. Again, he's never coached before, so it's hard to compare this. But like, if you're saying that there's like a tactical change, I think what you're saying is they were playing in a way that was like super inefficient. They were leaving points on the table,
sure.
or they were bleeding more points defensively
Mm,
because they were playing in a suboptimal way. I don't necessarily see that for the Lakers. Like offensively, the one thing you might say about last year is they were quite low on 3-point attempts. They were 28th in the NBA because this team shoot more threes. Right. On the flip side, the Lakers, as you know, were excellent at getting to the foul line. All right. Refer to that Darko Rakovic rant.
the face of the league rant.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy, man. He really got that in there. But like, I don't know. The weird thing is they were 15th in defense, 15th in offense, 16th in
Mid
defense, and
mid
somehow they won
alert.
47 games. So it's just a weird team. Like, I actually think that like JJ would have to coach this team really, really well tactically to even get them to repeat the same numbers.
Yeah,
So,
I
but at the same
just
time, 43 is still quite low, man. I'm still gonna give them the over. I can't believe it. I
this
just always
this is
over.
the fear of Braun in you, man. You respect
It
Braun too
is.
much, man.
Again, as a Raptor fan.
Yeah, you
Like, I
respect.
don't think
Yeah.
Fiora Brown is normal, man.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, I'm actually
But you're
gonna.
under.
Yeah, I'm under
You're
on
under on
this.
that one.
I'm gonna
Alright.
defer to you on this team because I actually don't know
Okay.
what to make of them. The Houston Rockets are
Mhm.
at 42.5. They pushed the Warriors for the last play-in spot last
Yep.
season. Have a really talented young group, and of course, still have the vets with Fred VanVleet there. Dylan Brooks. I think I saw Steven Adams is making a little comeback. Wasn't he
Steven
hurt
Adams
last
is
year?
there. Jeff Green. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
hurt last
Yeah,
year.
they
Yeah.
got Jeff Green, who's just randomly dunks on five guys every season.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know what to make of this Houston team. I mean, the line has them at basically a 500 team.
Yep.
Which way do you think they're swinging this season?
So last season, the big jump that they got was from Ime Udoka. Like this is a classic like coaching change. He got them to really play defense, and
Hmm.
that brought up the bottom line.
Hmm.
Right. Of course, they also improved themselves defensively by adding Dylan Brooks and adding Fred, two really good defenders at their positions. But at the same time, it was also a coach was able to bring in improved defense across the board from the guys. And for the first half of the season, they were like really good defensively, and then they started falling off a little bit more. They still ended up at the year at 41-41. I think it's a young team that's hungry. I think there's a couple guys that really are waiting to pop off. Like I'm actually really excited to see what Amin Thompson does. Like definitely one of the top 10 most athletic players in the league, and it's just exciting watching him kind of do anything. Shangun, I think, is really taking a step forward in terms of his ability to sort of be the hub, but also be a scorer, be a passer. I think him and Fred were in a really good combo last year. There was even like maybe Alperen Şengün should make the All Star game, and whatever. Obviously that didn't happen, but like he was playing at an All Star level. With his especially on offense. Defensively, I think Ime Udoka is always going to hold this team accountable. And I think there's enough young players who can like maybe take a step forward with this group. I think overall though, like 42.5, like so basically winning two more games than last year. Maybe I don't know. Do you think there was an element of them like sneaking up on teams last year?
Yeah, a little
Do
bit
you
of
think that's a
that.
thing for them?
And I also think I think they still a little bit more they need a little bit more clarity on that roster in terms of balancing out
Sure.
like the younger and older guys and like some of the positions
Yeah.
as well. And it's one of those things where if you just look at all the West teams that we talked about, like do you believe Houston's gonna make the jump where they can be maybe leapfrog the Lakers, the Warriors, maybe even get into that like Sacramento, New
Mm.
Orleans, like mid 40s? I don't know. I'm gonna take the under on the Rockets here.
Yeah, I think the one thing with the Rockets is this he feels like a team that is waiting to make a trade.
Hmm. Hmm.
And there were those rumors before Woj retired, like a couple of months ago, where he was saying like maybe the Rockets are interested in they're watching KD.
Yeah, Tillman
They're
Fertitta
not.
just has Kevin Durant on his TV.
Yeah,
They're
they're watching.
watching KD.
They're watching them, man. Like it's crazy,
Yeah.
But I do feel like this is a team that's gonna trade one or two of their young players
Hmm.
with a big salary My guess is probably like Fred, for example, has a team option the following year for $40 million.
Yeah.
That's an easy piece to like literally turn into a trade piece,
Yeah.
and then flip some of those assets, those young players, because they do have a lot of prospects, to go get an existing star. I feel like they're like very impatient with this group.
Yeah.
They actually want to speed it up a little bit, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I'll probably go with the under on this one too.
Yeah. To me, they remind me.
But purely because I've hit the over for like too many teams so far.
Yeah,
I need to course correct.
They remind me a little bit of they're like a Canal Street version of the OKC Thunder.
Okay, wow.
Just came back from New York. Canal, where all the great bootleg goods
bro.
are. And
You can't even give them Saint Laurent on this one.
no, because like they have
Mile End Thunder
Plateau. They have this group of young players, but it's not to the level of what OKC has.
Right.
It seems like they have it pretty, like they through their trades. I know they have a lot of the draft picks as well, but it just they don't have that one guy. They don't have like a Shea. I don't know. I just don't feel like if you're high on Şengün, sure, of like potentially being like that guy on this team, but yeah, I just feel like it's a light version of OKC, and I don't.
Yeah,
I'm not that
fair.
impressed.
I see that.
Next up, speaking of not impressed, the Los Angeles Clippers, moving into the Intuit Dome this season, of course, lost Paul George and added Clippers legend Nicholas Batum has returned. I can finally wear my Clippers Batum jersey again. Added Chris Dunn, who's currently picking up someone in Clippers practice 94 feet. Derek Jones Jr. and Kevin Porter Jr. So, Clippers are already losing the moral battle. James Harden has talked about, going back to the Clippers are going to go back to just, an offense where he has the ball a lot. Kawhi Leonard says he's never going to be healthy again. These are all facts, by the way.
He's just straight up dropping this charade. He's like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be there. Yeah.
They are at 39.5. I think
don't forget Norm Powell saying that PG leaving means he's going to get more touches.
Yep. Norman Powell. Terrence Mann is still there. Untouchable. Yeah. So 39.5. I think a huge slip is coming. I'm taking the under on this one.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, the Clippers roster is hilarious because they just got they got Josh Primo on this roster.
Oh man,
they got Kevin Porter Jr. on this roster. Man. It's like, what are you doing over there, man? But I don't know. PJ Tucker is also sitting out. He's like, I'm gonna
focus on my sneaker collection on eBay versus just getting benched by Ty Lue. So
that's right.
So yeah, no, this is a clear under for me, and I might
become the new Nick DePaula.
I might lock this up. So. Under.
Yeah, this is an under for me. I don't like. There's just not enough standout talent. I know Kawhi's gonna play like 50 games at most.
Yeah, I respect.
I guess he played a lot of games last year, though. I gotta say, when they put in that whole 65 games for the whole thing, Kawhi played 68 last year, which is the most he ever played.
Well, and see what happened. Like I think, and this is not. Listen, man. Like I love Kawhi, and it's just like we've seen this over and over again with the Clippers. Like he just doesn't have the health to withstand whatever that NBA grind is of however many games he plays, the 82 in the regular season and the playoffs. And it's just, he has not ended a season healthy, I think, in like half a decade now.
Well, I mean, it's literally since the Raptors.
Yeah, it's been that long, right? So like, I know what Kawhi's availability is going to be, and I'm just betting on that, so I'm taking the under.
Okay. The only thing is, I have to say that Ty Lue has done a great job of getting more wins out of a group than you would really expect.
But look at this roster, man.
Yeah, but look at this roster, man. This is not it. Yeah, I'm gonna go under too. Yeah, you know what? The West is tough too, man.
Yeah. Next up,
all it takes is James Harden letting go of the rope and stuff like that. Like he's probably got a cool 1 or 2 good months in him, but when he falls off too, it's crazy. This team's gonna be really bad.
Plus, it's not like you surrounded Harden with like a bunch of shooters. Like even if you want to recreate,
no, you're right.
If you want to recreate the concept of like Houston James Harden, like a version of it, it's not like he's kick out to Chris Dunn, bang,
clank.
Yeah, better close out on Derek Jones Jr. San Antonio Spurs up next. This one's interesting. So they are at 36.5. So of course they drafted Stephon Castle. They added CP3. They added Harrison Barnes, and they have this young core around Wemby. Last year, the Spurs were 22-60. So this is a 14 win jump really based on the fact that Wemby is a monster. So
Yeah,
36
yeah,
and a half.
basically it.
36 and a half. Man, this is so tough for me.
Ah,
This just feels high to me.
it does, and I'm like the thing is like no matter how high you are on Wemby, it's like fully priced into the odds already. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like
Sure.
the odds are already pricing in every high end jump for Wemby, and
Mhm.
like I mean he's an insane player. He's incredible, right? He played 71 games last year. Maybe he plays more of that. Maybe that kind of pulls it up a little bit. Chris Paul's always got a history of sort of like elevating his teams and getting the most out of them, but like I don't know, man. Like in the West too, like objectively, as much as we just talked about Clippers, like as much as the Clippers are like falling off, they got so many more NBA level players than
Sure.
what the Spurs have.
I just think
And
too,
obviously the
yeah.
Spurs have they have Wemby, but like
Like, is
ah
Wemby so good? Like, year two Wemby so good that it's just gonna be
yeah.
hard for the Spurs to
Okay.
like lose that many games.
So the path to this is Wemby's single-handedly so dominant on defense
Yeah,
that they take them from being 22 last year defensive rating wise to like top 5.
I think you can make a case for that because I think if you break out the on-off
Really?
stats when Wemby was on the floor, I think they
Yeah.
ranked way higher
Wow.
as a defensive team. And like,
But like they've got to play Wemby 40 minutes a game, which like I think Pop has done a really good job of limiting
yeah,
and just keeping him like not under wraps or like
yeah.
holding him back, but
This,
like being like more
you know,
modest
the
about how he
Spurs.
uses him.
I respect the Spurs. Like, the Spurs are like the Miami Heat, except they don't slap a bunch of texts about being the hardest working team, in the
Mm.
paint. But man, their patience and just the way they do things properly
Yeah, they're
annoy.
super patient. Yeah.
It annoys the hell out of me because they're just like so proper. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they'll never
Yeah.
slip up. Like
Yeah.
every trade makes sense. Every move
Yeah.
makes sense. Like they're not gonna rush into like building this Wemby thing. Like they're
Mhm.
gonna take the next few years here. And I think part of that too is maybe why I'm gonna take the under. Like I don't know if the
Same.
incentive is there for them to be like, yo, let's be a 40
Mhm.
win team this season.
Yeah, and I think the only way that their timeline is pushed is if Wemby starts like really making a ruckus and really saying I need to win. And I know he's been saying that,
Hmm.
but like I don't know. I mean, like I think adding some vets in there helps for sure, but I think this is probably a team that comes in at 30 wins, not 36 and a half.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two more teams here. Man, the
Okay.
West is so interesting, man. All the way up to now, like I feel like every team is kind of interesting in their own way.
It's been tough. These are all like I'm gonna have a hard time picking 3 locks at the end of this. I
Yeah,
really
the
will.
the Utah Jazz, boring alert, 29,
Oh, brother.
29 and a half. It looks like Danny Ainge. I mean, Larry Markkinen was involved in trade rumors during
Yeah.
the offseason, ended up signing an extension.
Right,
I
right.
believe Walker Kessler might be available in trade as well. And
Okay.
29, oh man, I don't know, man. Like I feel like Danny Ainge is pretty set on tanking a little bit this season
Mhm.
and getting there. So honestly, just off the strength of that, and I don't think their roster is that super impressive. This is an under for me.
Sure, whatever. I have nothing to say about this.
Yes, I got nothing to say about the
I mean,
Utah
whatever, man.
Jazz.
They squeezed 30 wins because of their home court advantage, because like they have really good coaching. But
Yeah, and it's
every year they get
boring there.
torpedoed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a snooze fest, man. I mean, they got some young prospects. Like, who knows how some of these guys will look? Keontae George, I like him.
Mhm.
I guess we didn't get that much of a look at like Taylor Hendricks. I want to see what he does too, but like, I don't know, man. But boring. Next, all right.
Yeah, boring. Speaking of boring, Portland Trailblazers 20,
Boring.
22 and a half. I
Oh,
don't know, man.
brother.
Give me like one thing to be excited about watching the Blazers.
One thing, Donovan Clingan, he got a
Oh yeah, you
he
know
got
what?
a big, he got a big.
I like Klingon, man, but
Yeah.
I ain't flipping league pass to see Donovan
He's
Kling
like
fight on the boards, you know?
he's like Bogut, but without the bad politics.
Yeah, yeah. Klingon, dominating.
Blue pilled Andrew Bogut.
Oh,
Is that
man.
exciting you to turn on NBA TV at
Yo.
10:30 p.m.?
Give me some dominating.
Oh yeah, dominating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they got a lot of centers too. Like low key. Like,
Yo,
wait,
why
how
are they
got-
so big, man?
They got Klingon. They got Aiden. They got Robert Williams. Like what?
Yo,
what
what
is this
what
team,
what
man?
are they
got Denny.
what are they cooking over there,
They
man?
got Chauncey Billups as a head coach.
Oh, my God.
Billups.
Oh
like,
man.
what?
All right, boring under. I think
Boring.
I think this is another tanking candidate right
This is a
here.
brick.
And honestly, even
For
if they try to win, I don't know if they're hitting
Scoot
22.
Henderson.
Oh,
Jaden
man.
Sharp's already injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anthony Simons,
Oh, man.
the most non-talked about, like 22, 25 point per game score, whatever he's at.
Yeah. He's this generation's Mitch Richmond.
Yeah, what is he at? Yeah, he has 22.5 points per game, but no one cares. Like it's like
oh man,
just nobody cares. I don't know. There's not one good storyline with the Blazers this year. I
okay,
mean,
under.
hopefully Scoot Henderson isn't like the worst shooting point guard since like Russell Westbrook.
Oh
But
man.
like it's been tough, man.
All right, let's wrap up with our 3 locks. What is your first lock?
My first lock. Actually, you know what? You should go first because I got the first lock in the East.
Okay,
So
my
I'm gonna give it to
first
you, brother.
lock is going to be the Clippers under 39 and a half.
Okay.
Okay. Clippers are done.
All right. That's you know what? I kind of like that too, but at the same time, like that is aggressive because they will be losing like 12 more games or 13 more games than they did last year. For me, I am going to go under on the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm going to course correct what I did last year, which was to go over.
Yeah.
And I'm locking in them on the under. I just feel like, yes, their talent is a lot better than last year based on guys being available, but it is asking so much of a team to go make a 21 win jump.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So I'm gonna lock them under.
Yeah.
What's your next pick?
Can't wait for you to be wrong again. I'm gonna go Denver 51 and a half over.
Ah, that's a great one.
Yeah,
that's a really good one.
I love that one.
Yeah,
That's such a low total, man.
that's super low, man. That's super low. You know what? Along the same lines, I'm gonna lock the under on the Spurs 36 and a half. I just feel like unless they more players, like they're still fundamentally a really young team, and I know where their priorities are. They're gonna look to add more young talent.
Yeah,
but I'm excited to watch them. They're really the most watched 30-win team I've ever seen.
Yeah. Boring alert here. I'm gonna lock in Utah under 29 and a half.
Okay, all right. Give me one reason for this.
Can't wait to be right about that.
Okay.
Oh man.
Yeah, you know what? The last one, I'm gonna go lock the over on the Mavericks at 49 and a half. I really believe in the Mavs. I think I'm already on record saying I think they're gonna be the top of the conference, with some luck, and I think there's a possibility. I think it's between them and OKC for tops in the conference this year.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, it looks like from doing the 2 over under episodes that the Western Conference is once again more interesting than the East.
You know what will make the West even more interesting to watch though?
What's up?
If we went to Greta to watch them.
Oh man, yo, if we go to Greta and on a Western Conference night,
because it's like you hit, it's like the TNT game.
Yep,
that's not the first one. The second TNT game at Greta, and it's Lakers. Let's be honest.
Lakers Warriors again. Like it's gonna be Lakers
Cup
Warriors
action.
Yeah, NBA
Cup
Cup is gonna be so exciting. We can go to Greta and watch. OKC play the Mavs in a playoff rematch. We can watch Denver, Minnesota playoff rematch. That'll be super interesting. We can watch Zach Edey and the Grizzlies. Take on DeMar and the Sacramento Kings. Yeah, Greta's the spot, man. Pre-game,
open late too. You know what I mean?
During the game, post game, open late. Yeah. Maybe at halftime we can go, play some Papa Shot. We can hit up the arcade. We can, check out, Mario Kart and all of these other great things that is at Greta. Yeah, skee ball. That's that'll be super fun, man. Let's definitely go to Greta this season and catch at least one Western Conference battle.
You know what I want to hear in Greta? I want to hear that Inside the NBA theme song, man. That da-na-na-na.
Oh, man. When I walk into Greta and hear that, I'm going to get chills, man.
Oh, man. Yeah. Last season for Inside the NBA, too, man. You got to savor it.
Yeah, salute. All right, man. That's it, man. We'll have Joseph Cacharo on joining us later this week. We're going to do a MIG draft. We're going to draft the most important guys from around the NBA that we're watching this season.
I love it. You're always full of great ideas. You're back from New York. The Raptors are back in action. Of course, you can check out the preseason games, the post-game reaction podcast. We have been going live. We might even bring in some special guests. So once again, make sure you subscribe to the Hello and Welcome podcast. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you know exactly when we're going live. And let's just try to enjoy the season. Nobody promised anything with the Raptors other than a good time and a lot of Hello and Welcome podcast episodes. So thanks everyone for listening. For myself, Will, for Alex Wong, my co-host, you've been listening to the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway.